So, it's almost the end of the decade, as I came to realize recently. And before thinking about anything else like politics and life, I kind of thought about music and what this decade's been like. Needless to say, I kind of feel like this decade's been not particularly exciting musically. Not to say that there hasn't been good stuff or funny stuff like, Gangnam Style, but there hasn't been, Hotel California, Stairway to Heaven, or Comfortably Numb, or, Staying Alive, or hip hop like the 90s, or anything that particularly blew my mind. Having said that, I feel like the blow up of independent musicians this decade has been great. So, like, people like me and tons of others who blew up earlier this decade, like Orla Garland or Josh Turner, can express themselves online and create music without needing a label. So, yeah, I think that's the best part about music this decade. However, I tried to think about my top 10 songs of the decade, which was a daunting task because I was torn between picking songs that I felt were my favorite versus songs that I felt were influential or might be remembered in the future. So I kind of combined the two and uh, inserted my own subjective views into what I feel will be influential and might impact the next decade or even further than that. So in 10th place is Gold on the Ceiling by the Black Keys. Now, they were never a particular favorite band of mine, but throughout the decade I kept coming back and forth to them, particularly because I have this attraction to the blues and 60s, 70s rock and roll and that kind of garage band raw feel. And I felt they were a good kind of a flashback to all those things with a ton of distortion and, just a raw energy that I kind of really dig. So I could have picked a bunch of other songs like Little Black Submarines or Lonely Boy or even something newer, older. But I feel that that song was the first one that I heard that I went, oh, there's something there. In ninth place is a song I'm pretty sure most people don't really know, although I feel it's the most underrated song of the decade, and it's Future Islands Seasons, Waiting on You. They did a performance of it on Letterman, and they did it on Jules Holland, and I don't know the singer's name, but he's one of the most entertaining performers I've ever seen. And it's just kind of like you threw Bruce Springsteen and Mick Jagger and James Brown and Tom Waits into one big blend, and it's all there. At first, it makes you uncomfortable, but it's a fantastic song. Like if you listen to it without watching, it's great. And the more you watch him, the more you kind of want to move the way he does. So yeah, Future Islands are great. In eighth place, I've chosen John Mayer's New Light. Not because I feel it's the best song he released this decade, but it's the one that I feel brings everything together. You have a little bit of that kind of uptown funk, Mark Ronson thing going on. You have a little bit of that whole bluesy, old school trend. And I feel that it's like Michael Jackson and Prince got together and made a record, and, Eric Clapton decided to play on it. John Mayer has really grown as an artist or been given the opportunity to express what he's capable of. I felt that back in the 2000s, he released music that was nice, but he kind of had to bow down to pop culture until he released Continuum, of course, which is a masterpiece. And this decade, touring with the Grateful Dead and doing all these other things, he's just really grown and branched out, which I love. His music is the kind of music that I wish I could make. In seventh place is a controversial pick. I've picked Black Smoke Rising by Greta Van Fleet. Now, despite the fact that this band sounds almost identical to a band that some of you might know from the 70s, I think it's refreshing to have a bunch of really great musicians performing songs that sound like outtakes by Led Zeppelin. Having said that, I feel like Black Smoke Rising, of all their songs, sounds the most modern and kind of driving away from the Led Zeppelin feel. Of course, he still sounds like Robert Plant, but there's a lot more going on in that song, and I really dig it, and I kind of hope they continue, and I'm curious how they evolve. I'm really curious. Whether you like them or dislike them, I think it's safe to say that if they were playing in your town, you probably wouldn't miss the show, right? In sixth place, I've chosen River by Bishop Briggs. Now, that girl can sing. That's another highlight of this decade. There's people who can actually sing. Now, I mean, I've left people like Adele and Lady Gaga out of this list, spoiler alert, but it's so refreshing to have people who can actually sing this decade. Last decade felt like really kind of trashy when it came to the quality of singers, aside from people like Norah Jones and John Mayer. Yeah, there's not much I can say about Bishop Briggs apart from she sounds great, and she absolutely shreds it on that song. I love it. In fifth place is another guy who can really sing, play well, write great songs. Hozier's Take Me to Church absolutely blew up this decade, and I'm so glad. I mean, of course, there's the people who say, oh, yes, better songs, and it's overplayed. The whole way, Smells Like Teen Spirit is overplayed or Wonderwall is overplayed. There's a reason it's overplayed. It's a really great song, and I'm glad it's that song and not some other, overproduced, commercially, whatever song. It's a cool song, and although his latest album didn't impress me as much, I hope to hear more from his music. In fourth place, I've picked probably my favorite new artist of the decade. Although it's kind of weird to call him new because he's been around the block. And that's Chris Stapleton. And although there are a ton of songs of his I love, I have to pick Tennessee Whiskey. There are people who don't know country or people who just do not like country and they love that song. Chris Stapleton is a master vocalist, a beautiful guitar player, incredible songwriter. And if there's anyone on this list that I'd recommend listening to if you haven't already, it's Chris Stapleton. The guy's an absolute genius, and I can't wait to see what else he does. In third place, I've picked something that might come across as strange to those of you who know me or know the kind of music I make. And it's Billie Eilish's Bury a Friend. I don't know a whole lot about her, but I did listen to her album and just a bunch of her songs and looked her up. And she's great. There's just a quality she has, along with her brother, whose name escapes me. But it's really nice to see someone who brings excitement to young people about music again in a real way. Like, I know there's a bunch of people out there who love Kanye West and Drake and this and that, and I'm sure there's a reason for it, but I don't see it. When it comes to Billie Eilish, there's just something fresh, new, strange about her that I really like and respect. So yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what she does. Like, I feel like she's totally unpredictable, and I like that. In second place, I've picked Holocene by Bon Iver, whatever you want to call it. I only picked that song because I couldn't pick anything off Forever Ago from last decade. I feel that more than half of what's going on with indie artists nowadays is thanks to him. There's just a vibe that kind of flows throughout a lot of today's music that I feel is thanks to Bon Iver. It's a great song. It bridges his first album with the next albums. There's just a great vibe about it. And yeah, he's to our generation what the Velvet Underground was or the Pixies. So thank you, Justin Vernon. In first place, I've picked an artist that deserves the respect he gets. Even though I'm not a big fan of all his music, he deserves the credit for opening doors for a lot of singer-songwriters like myself, a lot of guys out there who are just, simple dudes trying to make it by writing songs. And that's Ed Sheeran, and the song is I See Fire. Now, maybe I have to give credit to Tolkien for writing such a great book that inspired that song, but yeah, I think that across genres and across cultures, everyone loves that song. And if I had to pick one song that spoke for the decade, I'd say that's it. So thank you for watching the video. Hopefully you liked some of the songs that I mentioned. I also want to give a shout out to songs that I didn't mention on this list, and that's The Sky is a Neighborhood by the Foo Fighters, Doom and Gloom by the Rolling Stones, I Gots to Get Paid by ZZ Top. I didn't mention them because they're old school bands and been given credit to so many times. As Dave Grohl said, you got to give credit to newer bands and newer artists. But without a doubt, without those guys, I don't know where we'd all be. If you want to leave a comment about a song that I might have missed or something that you felt was really great this decade, feel free. I know not everyone's going to agree with me. This is my own personal list. By no means am I saying that this is the ultimate top 10 list of the decade. I don't believe in an objective list. So, thanks for watching. Feel free to like or subscribe or comment or not, or just, keep feeling the music, and let's hope for a decade full of music. Great music, not just music.